Good night, everyone.
Hello.
How great is it? Hey, how's the gang going?
Hey, guys.
Hostess with the mostest. We've got the boss and special guest, Matthew Fraser. I haven't heard that name for a long time. Matthew Fraser. How do you feel being called the Matthew? How good's that?
Yeah, that's all right.
Righto, gang. What have we been up to this week? Trace, what have we been up to?
This week I have been doing a lot of work with you, Motty. So obviously on Sunday we brought out our first Smack Spinnerbait go live, which went really, really well. Sunshine Coast Fishing also did a online competition from Friday to Monday, which got like 2,500 entries. Absolutely blew out of proportion. So working with Dean Jackson, did a lot of work within that. And then what was
their contrast? What did they do?
Hey, they just did a photo competition, free photo competition around Australia. Most fish went into there. I think, I don't think I can announce who got most fish yet because he hasn't announced it, but there was hundreds and thousands of entries that went into it. It really just exploded. So working all that out, and then today, Motty and I are trying to move on to our next stage of production, which is getting some videos up on Smack Lures for YouTube, and once that's done and I can work that out, we're going to do all our fishing freshwater photos, load them up on YouTube. So that's pretty much been my week so far.
And my week's been telling Tracy what to do.
At all.
Yes.
What about you, Andrew? You earning 100,000, still earning 100,000 a week, or what? Andrew.
My money, or is that Australian money?
Oh, who'd know with you? You got offshore bank accounts everywhere. Who'd know?
Yeah, right. Well, you are the only one raiding them. So. Mate, just work and a bit more work, actually. I had a couple of days off, which is the first weekend as such that I've had in, I don't know how many years.
What, 2 weeks?
2 weeks? What do you mean?
Yeah, you had a weekend off. The last time was in 2 weeks ago.
No.
And, hey, we got our special guest, guys. How good is it to have... this guy does some stuff that's just unbelievable. I've known him for a long time, and who would have thought back all those years ago, mate, you'd have those talents that you have. Matty, how good is it to be on the show, brother?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Good to get on and have a chat with you guys. You're doing some pretty awesome stuff with the freshwater comps and freshwater fishing and techniques and that sort of stuff. So, it's all positive, mate. It's all good.
And, mate, you've been busy going back to the roots and been doing some timber lures. I've seen a bit of a thing there last night, just auctioning a few of those lures off again.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, with the way things are at the moment, stores are struggling quite a bit. So I'm not doing much in wholesale with my production lures. So it's back on the tools, and it sort of worked out. I was just about to get back on them anyway. But it's worked out really well. So I've just been getting back on and enjoying the creative side of it. Haven't enjoyed some of the painting. That's just been doing my head and getting my gear up and running again and getting my colour combinations right and that sort of thing. But it's really good that there's still quite a bit of demand for my creative timber lures. They sold out in a couple of minutes last night of the batch of budgies I put up. So that's great. And it's been able to sustain my income to keep me going through this period.
Actually, talking about budgies, Tracy wanted to know. She was going when she didn't know that you did Barambah. That's it. She's going, this guy makes bloody budgie lures. What's that all about? So there you go. Have a look at that.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
I was when I was doing a bit of a Facebook stalk about you, I was looking through, and then as you're skimming through your phone, and then I had to sit there and be like, is that budgie? Because you haven't seen a budgie for a long time, and I'm like, that's an actual budgie lure. I was like, this dude makes budgie lures. So I was really intrigued because I was like, I've seen I don't know what you call them, the lizards or the geckos.
Yeah.
I've seen those in action in the water, but the budgies just threw me. So I'm really curious to know what sort of species of fish and what do you catch them on? Can you catch them on barra? Will barra eat them?
Well, I don't know. No one's really throwing them for Barra. They're mainly a Murray cod thing. So, yeah, a few years back I got into the Murray cod scene and the timber lure scene. And, yeah, it gives you an avenue to do the big, creative, natural creature baits. And because cod will eat anything that lands on their water hole, you just got to give it the right action. So, apart from making them look cool, there's a fair bit of design where it goes into getting, the balance right, the actions right, and all that sort of stuff. And that's I'm pretty big on that sort of stuff as well. Because I hate selling a lure that's something that, even though something like the blue tongue there, there's a heap of work goes into that, but I'm not going to sell something that looks pretty. It has to be able to swim and have the right action and everything as well. So, I've enjoyed getting into that, and it's all, pretty much Murray cod fishing mainly.
That's pretty cool. Don't forget, guys, jump on now, put your comments in. We're going to start off with a few questions, but if you want any questions and you want Matt to answer any of that stuff, jump on now. Just remember, we've got the randomizer on tonight. We're giving away that great carton of Great Northern. That'll be pretty good, and there might be a few special things for people who do a really good question to Matt. You never know what might turn up. But anyway,
are they going to be posted out in the budgie smuggler?
That Matt might, you never know. Matt might wear a budgie smuggler. Yeah, you never know.
You want to take the hooks off before you smuggle these folks.
Okay, so let's get what everyone's been waiting for. Let's get in depth with Matty. This is going to be something, mate. We met. Geez, we must have been in Mergen back in the very very early 90s. You were actually in the army then, but you were coming back. Your parents were still living in Mergen, mate. People might know this, but you were in the army for a fair while. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I joined straight out of high school in '89. Did 14 years, so did 2 years in Victoria doing my training as a motor mechanic at the Army Apprentice School, and then in 90, so 89, 90, 91, I come back to Brisbane, and that's when I bought my boat, my Cecil Edge Tracker, and that's when I started coming out the dam because Bjelke was just coming online. They just filled up, and they'd started stocking it in Bundoomba and Somerset. That's where the dams were just in their starting off and just building in the size of the fish. So I left my boat at home at my parents' place at Mergen, come home every weekend from Brisbane pretty much, and go out to the town in Kingaroy on a Friday night, and then spend the weekend.
The three of us, it used to be, we'll get him on the show too soon, as yourself, Robbie Smith, and myself. We used to get our little tinnies out there and cause havoc and trial up a storm and whack the hell out of them.
Yeah, that's it. That's where I first saw you guys out on the dam out there, and then that Bundoomba Bashers, mate, the Kingaroy Sport Fishing Club, Bundoomba Bash at Bundoomba. That was a big answer thing back in the day, and I learned heaps off those answer club. I was with the Brisbane Valley Anglers and then Northern Brisbane Club. You were with Kingaroy and Smithy, and
I was with Ipswich as well. Ipswich for a long time. My brother was the president at Ipswich. That's how I got into answer back in the early when I was still at school. So he was in the Air Force, obviously. So I know what you AJs and Air Force guys are like. So, mate, tell us about in the army. There, you spent a fair bit of time up in the territory. You were up there for a couple of years, and that's where you honed your skills as far as your barra stuff went.
Yeah, I only did 2 years up there, but really enjoyed it. There's a steep learning curve with the tides and the heat, temperature, and roads and that sort of thing back then. Getting into corroboree and that, it wasn't bitumen, so Brisbane roads. You could have any sort of trail, and you'd be right. You go to the territory, and you've got to have a pretty serious trailer and car to get around. That gets covered in red dirt and all that sort of stuff. So every trip's a bit of an adventure. You have to get your tides right, or you can't even launch because the tides go out 8 or 9 metres.
So what was it like fishing up there, coming from a boy who used to fish in Kingaroy or in the dams, and then obviously going up there? What sort of learning curve? Was it a massive learning curve for you?
Yeah, it definitely was, because you read about it in the magazines how good it is, and how it is good, but that's people who know what they're doing. It still took time to learn it all. You don't just go out every time and smash them. It took a long time to work it out. I was really only there for 2 years, so I only worked out a few things and had a few. I never got a good runoff in the 2 years I was there. Like it's not a given every year to have a good runoff in March, April. But I really enjoyed the dry season Robbery, Billabong, and yellow waters, the fly fishing for barra and togas. Really enjoyed that sort of fishing. That was a lot of good fun. It's a good time of year. It's like summer up there all through their dry season or winter. It's like a summer's day. So, and it never rained. So that was easy. Going to the Billabongs, there's no tides and things to worry about there. It's just bugs and crocs and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Mate, looking at now, like YouTube and all the videos and all that stuff that's sort of exploded in the last few years. But, mate, I got one of my clients sent me this the other day, and I actually was a part of this. This was ahead of its time, mate. This damn hot, obviously with myself, and this is the first one that you did. That was in the middle night. Was it about 90, 97, 98, something like that? 98, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was 98.
Yeah. So I'd been chartering for a couple of years, and, mate, you done them damn hots. And back then, that was just revolutionary. You done that with your brother. We spent 3 or 4 days on the dams filming. You end up doing 2 or 3 damn hots on that. So tell us a little bit what made you, because you're still in the Army, what made you get into that, and what was the whole idea behind it?
Yeah, well, I was massively into the fishing, the impoundments. They were booming every year. It got better and better. The fish were getting bigger and more stocked, and there was no drought and what have you. So, yeah, there was nothing out there, and my brother wanted to film some short films, so he went and bought a camera. So between us, we had to spend a fortune on camera gear and the computer we bought had a tower this big just for a 40 gig hard drive, and it cost 10 grand or something ridiculous. We spent 20 or 25 grand on camera gear and computers and editing software to be able to do it. Now you can do it for free. So it was a pretty big exercise, but everyone I asked, like yourself and Neil Schiltz and guys like that, all through it, were keen to be on board and just had so much knowledge. I didn't like to put myself across as the expert, but I was going out with yourself, who knew more than me, and were able to bounce off each other and go out there and show people. And it put places on the map a little bit, and it sort of opened doors for years. And particularly at the time, Tinaroo in Damot too, that really put Tinaroo on the map in a really big way.
Well, you caught a world record at that.
Yeah, 3 kilo line class world record, 21.5 kilos, I think it was at the time, which was that was pretty cool. It was just an exciting time, and I had the boat and the gear and just went hard on all that sort of stuff. Pre-marriage and kids, that sort of thing, it's like, and you've got a bit more time on your hand, and in the Army where you've got a wage coming in every week, a bit different to being in business.
Yeah, definitely. You're not wrong there. So, mate, then after the 14 years, you got out as a sergeant. You thought you'd had enough, and I remember talking to you about it, and you decided, I haven't actually heard this, but then you decided to get into making lures. What made you decide to do that?
I just wanted to have a go at it. I had no clue about the business or the fishing industry or anything. So, jumped in the deep end and really didn't have a clue. And it was sink or swim there for a few years, that's for sure. But at the time, the soft plastic boom was just coming on. Squidgies, Soho and Bushy squidgies were the first things to come out. And then Berkeley got big on the back of it. But there was no good jig heads at the time. There were some gammers and there's some different brands, but there was nothing. They were on bronze hooks, or they were ball heads with crap keepers on them. And I just sort of saw a bit of a hole in the market there to be a little bit niche, especially I was doing a lot of the bass tournament scene there. ABT had started up as well. So we're doing a lot of soft plastic sliders were a big thing. Went to design things like the Dam Deep and then the rest of the Nitro range. So
you did that in 2003, and then Bugger Me Dead, you were lucky enough, which must have been a big boost, to win the ABT Broome Grand Final, mate. That must have been a big thrill. And going on to business, I mean, that's what really sort of launched it big time, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was just a bit of a lucky win at the time. That was the first.
No luckies, mate. There's no luck. You got to still do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's it. You do, but that was good to have that result. Yeah, it was only the second year of ABT. The first year they didn't have a grand final. The first year of ABT Brim. They'd already been doing bass for a few years. I actually started bass the year I went to 2 years. I went to Darwin. So by the time
99 they started. With the first one.
2000 I was in Darwin, and when I come back in 2001, bass was well and truly up and running, and then they kicked into Brim, and so it was the first Brim grand final I had at Taree, and I managed to crack a pattern in the racks, fishing little orgy rippers, just rolling them through the racks, and it's like anything, if you crack a pattern and manage to have a bit of luck on your side, managed to come away with a win there, which is good. I won a bite, which was worth about 12 grand at the time.
Yeah, back then days, massive back then, eh? And then, mate, in after you've had your business for a few years, then you sold it to Pure Fishing, which is Berkeley, Abu, all that sort of stuff. How did that all come about?
Yeah, at the time, I did, our first bub had come. I got married. First young fella had come along, and it was just getting busy and stressful. I had two of my cousins working for me, one of them full time, one of them part time. So we were working, making jig heads out of the back garden shed, loading hooks and spinning up jig heads, and then I was paying him, and our girls were packaging them, and it was just full on, and it just wasn't getting ahead. And at the time, then TT were doing really well with what they're doing. And they just moved their factory to Fiji, and I was just at the stage like I'm not going anywhere with this. This is not. I'm just killing myself doing this. How am I going to change what I'm doing? So my options were to try and go overseas or sell it, or I don't know. I just didn't know what to do. So I actually approached the Berkeley rep at the time, John Bell, and said, "You reckon Berkeley would be interested?" Because they had the best range of plastics, in my opinion. Power baits were doing great, then Gulps come out, were doing awesome, and I was pretty much building jig heads to suit the Gulps, and said, "Well, how do you reckon Nitro would sit in the Pure Fishing stable?" And he said, "Yeah, give it a go." So I went down and had a meeting with Phil Coles, and we did the deal and sold it to Pure Fishing Australia, and for a 3 year, sold it to them, and then had a 3 year contract to stay designing with them, and that turned into 12 years. So obviously I was sort of, they did quite well out of what I was doing for them, and it was it worked really well as a good partnership.
So what was it like designing lures for, because you just weren't doing it for Australia, you're doing it for Pure Fishing, which is a massive company in America. You're designing lures and that for them guys over there. That must have been a thrill.
Yeah, no, it was good. There was certain countries, South Africa and European countries, picked up a lot of the jiggers. Not much of the stuff went into America. I did go to America. I went to Spirit Lake in Iowa to the headquarters of Berkeley. That was really interesting to go and see their factory and their setup and meet the engineers. And I've worked with those guys on several other projects, not just jiggers. I ended up working with them on blades and other hard bait lures which had lead components, which I built the lead component for them to get the tolerances right on to fit inside a lure. So did a lot of work on those with those guys as well. So it's good to do all that, but it was mainly it really was mainly the Australian market that Nitro did really well, because they didn't use that brand overseas. They just pretty much picked up a few lures from the range and then put it into their Berkeley range overseas. So that was cool. But it's also good. I went to China and saw how things were done over there. I was having so many dramas going backwards and forwards with getting things built, and there was a lot of issues. And eventually I said, "Look, I just got to go there because I've got to work out why they're stuffing it up." Because normally, people just give them something and they copy it. But I was building the masters and the molds and everything, and then giving it to them, and then they'd go and change it. Like, what are you doing? So
I've spent all these years designing this stuff, mate. Don't keep changing it, mate. Then after 12 years, you decided to do something a bit different. And I remember getting a phone call from you and saying, "Mate, do you know if anyone's using the name Barambah?" And a lot of people might not understand this, but Barambah is actually BP Dam. That's what it's called, Lake Barambah. It's built on Barambah Creek. And that's where the name come from. I said, "No, mate, I don't know of anyone." And look, it's mate, what you were doing in them first couple of years in the designing of those lures, just basically it changed that whole scene forever. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that all started, so getting back to Barambah Creek, that's where, that's my home fishing creek. I used to ride in the morning out the creek at home and fish off the bank. And back then, before the Peterson filled up with bass and then flowed over and got bass into the Barambah Creek, there was only eels, catfish and spangled perch in there. So that's all my, super humble beginnings, like catching spanglies and eels and catching dewies off the bank on bait was what I started with. There was no lure munching species out there. So, but it's still where I come from, and that's why I named the lure brand after it. And also, obviously, Barambah, the Peterson Dam's the first dam that I just spent so much time on and love. I still think I caught the first bass on a lure out of the Elkie off Bass Point there.
Yep. That's the one.
Yeah, so... and getting into timber lures, so I went to the Lure Expo in the first year and didn't really get into it. The second or third year I went along and sort of started getting into understanding the background and the history of lure making in Australia, going back to the timber guys, all those Tenterfield lure makers, Newells and McFeeters and Shane Murphy, and then your northern guys like Carl Grist and Moller. And then I got onto a Lure Lovers website and I just got engrossed by learning the whole history of it. And then it sort of led me back into, when I started in 2002, 2003, that's when the soft plastic boom started. About the same time when most manufacturing of lures, of timber lures, all those guys fell away because everyone started doing stuff overseas, or the Japanese lures started coming in a bit later as well. So, like Australian lure makers from about 2000 really struggled to make a living out of it. They pretty much either went broke or went overseas to be able to keep going. They had to really go big or give up on it. So I just sort of studied the whole history of lure making. But what I did learn through the expos as well is the creative lure makers, and that's where I saw the works of guys like Ollie Hart, Chris Sinclair, Aaron Young from Cartafara, and Chris Nielsen. Those guys are my inspiration. The stuff that they do in timber lures and their artwork is just amazing. They're absolute artists, and they're my inspiration. I just compared to the rest of the world, like I've been, involved in the tackle industry, all aspects of it, from making myself through to going to China and seeing what big companies like Pure Fishing is the biggest fishing tackle company in the world. I worked with them for 12 years and saw how it was done. And these guys in Australia are doing as good or better than anyone else in the world in their creative lures.
So what made you come up with the lizard and all that sort of stuff, which was sort of, people had done snake stuff but nothing like what you did. What, just because you wanted to do something different, or there was something that you seen in the market, or just something coming out of your head and away you went?
Well, the original one was the water dragons, or the dragon itself, and that was from being out there. I started fishing out around Glenlyon Dam and the Jemeric River and the rivers out there in a canoe, and there's water dragons all over the place, and I just thought, I'll try and make a lure like a lizard. Could you see them jump in and swim along? And so I just decided to try and do that shape. And then pretty much a lot of my creations are inspired by, creature baits, birds, lizards, fish, crayfish. So, and I guess that's my niche amongst all these timber guys, is trying to do those creative and real natural looking pieces, or natural looking lures.
So for someone out there, how long, I get asked this all the time, but how long would it take you from start to finish to make one of those lures, you reckon?
Anywhere between 2 and 4 days on something like this. It's sort of, you do them in a batch of a dozen, and it takes 2 weeks pretty much, like 2 to 3 weeks on, just the painting alone.
So when you get Tracy doing $180 an hour and Andrew's on $200 an hour, just doing nothing, it is a mug's game, isn't it?
Oh, mate, even my bookkeeper charged me $70 an hour, and it hurt me. If I'd charge an hourly rate just on the budget, an hourly rate, they'd be worth about $450. That's $70 an hour. Like, it is ridiculous. And that's sort of why I ended up, one of the reasons why.
So then when, obviously after all those years, and I remember having this conversation about, making them out of timber, which is awesome. And it is, the skill and the craftsmanship that you do is second to none. There was you, and there's probably Thug and Colour, whatever. There was a couple of guys out there really doing it. But the problem is nobody wants to pay for really what it's worth. So people can be thinking that you're making a fortune, but at the end of the day, you've got the arse hanging out of your pants because the amount of work that you're doing. So then, mate, you made the big choice, the big decision, which is, it'd be interesting to hear now. Big decision in 2018 to actually go to China, and people think that it's easy. It is extremely hard and it costs a lot of money, honestly, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I guess the few reasons why I wanted to go down that route. One was I didn't like people copying my stuff and be able to sell it cheaper, like copying my ideas. And the other one is, these lures, I was working my ass off for 2 years to try and make a living out of the timber lures, and I got to that stage, like I did with jig heads way back, where I realised I'm not getting ahead with this. I'm not going to be able, I don't have a life doing this, and there's no possible way to scale it or to make it any more cost effective. It's just going to be the same forever, and I just couldn't do that. It was killing me, honestly. There was weeks there, it was 70 to 80 hours a week, every week sort of thing. So, there's no family time or anything. So that's when I went to, I had done a couple of trips to China, so I knew what was involved there, but not everything that was involved until you go yourself and you're doing it for another company. You don't know what goes on in the background and what the prices are exactly on moulds and all that sort of stuff. I had a few ins over there, so that helped, and I was able to, go down that track. But it was a massive, to do the business plan and to get a big loan and to do it all. I knew what it was going to cost me. Like, it was a big step to make that decision and do it. And there was a lot went on in the background before I actually, started going. But I ended up doing, basically, to get the whole lot of the lures up, the production, what I've got now, 9 models of hard baits and a couple of ranges of jig heads. I did 10 trips to China over just over 18 months, on average of, 10 to 14 days a trip sort of thing, working with a couple of different factories. And it was interesting, and it was different, but I've got at this stage now where hopefully it's good to go, but everything's falling over.
And you're not talking, I think people think, you go to China, it's chuck a couple of grand at it and away you go. You're talking hundreds, aren't you?
Talking mortgage of a house size.
Yeah, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to go over there and get it all sorted out where you're at with that many models where you can say, right, I need to do this and do that. Like, mate, personally, that must have been it's a massive thing. How did the missus and everyone, how did they all handle that? I mean, these are things that people should know, that it's just not all beer and Skittles, mate. It's very stressful.
Yeah, no, I looked into the route you went down with Lively and a few other Australian manufacturers, and I did a lot of sums on it. I've got a really good accountant, mate, who's up at Noosa there, who's best man at a wedding, so I trust him implicitly with everything I do. Went through really thorough business plan, but even that still didn't account for everything. But it's a massive step to do it, and and it's certainly a long way from paying off. That's for sure. But
I'll ask a question though, Matt.
Yeah.
Do you reckon making that decision in life, like, I don't know that I've looked at too many of them, but I reckon I can see it in just the way you hold yourself, that had you have not done it, how do you reckon you'd have felt about not doing it for the rest of your life? Do you think it would have been a decision you regret? Whether it works out or not, I sincerely hope it does for you, but do you think it's one of those things that you've got to have a crack at because you can make it work? There's a lot of things outside of your factor, out of your control. But it's one of those things. If you don't do it, how long is it going to be before you start to realise, shit, I better not do it?
Well, that's it. I had, it was a massive step and, massive crack to have a go at it, that's for sure. And I, for several years towards the end of my time with pure fishing, I was, ready to step out, but just couldn't afford it or couldn't convince the wife and everything that, I was going to be able to make it work. So there was a lot that went into it, but I guess the culmination of manufacturing myself, working with a big company, then timber manufacturing, I guess I had a bit of belief in my lure making skills and talents, and also I wanted to take that creative and cool stuff and put it into a production lure that people can afford, because there's not that, there's some cool stuff coming out of Japan and that, but yeah, there's not, I wanted to sort of do it almost for a lot of the Aussie lure guys who just do it as a hobby and do some really cool stuff, but also wanted to be able to compete on the world stage. I've got this stuff into Japan at the moment, and they're loving it. But yeah, just got to keep on working on different markets. I'm not a great businessman, unfortunately. I'm not a great salesman either, unfortunately. So it's just me, and yeah, just having a go, and yeah, it's pretty much go.
Hey, you seem to be doing all right, mate. You got a banner. Look at us. We've just got a lounge and a couple of lights, and we can't even afford a banner at the back. So you must be doing better than what we are. And Tracy's on $800 an hour.
Oh, we're increasing. So we've gone from 80 to 180 to 800. So the next record, guys, just as a little hot tip, we're going to go to 1,800 an hour next.
So Tracy, you got any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, actually, I do. So a lot of people are more saying hey and all that sort of stuff. So, but we've got Matt Reynolds, who won the Great Northern Pack last week. He's got a question going, hey guys, land-based and kayak-based fishermen mostly target yellow belly and cod. He's never caught any of either. What is one of your lures, Matt, that you would go and give it a go on for this guy down here? Saying he lives in Orange as well in New South Wales, so that's his location.
Yeah, well, I just go like out of my production range, the baby perch. It's
hold that closer.
Yeah, it's a pretty versatile. Just trying to get the light right. Pretty versatile little diver. Goes to about 20 foot on the dive, so you can troll it, you can cast it, and it's a good size for yellows and cod. And bass and everything. So that's, a good little all-rounder for fishing out of a kayak. In the impoundments or in the creeks and rivers. The Barambah baby perch.
That's awesome. And they can get that, is that available on your website, or do you have a shop on your Facebook page?
Yeah, on my website or through the Facebook page or Instagram, or it's available. And I've got about 80 stores in Australia that stock them now as well.
Wonderful.
So you can find them in a lot of different retail stores. So that comes in a 16-foot version, which actually dives to about 20 foot. And then it's in an 8-foot version as well. So it's a bit of a wider action in the 8-foot one. It's more for fishing the creeks and rivers.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Trace, any more questions, mate? Keep them coming.
Sorry, I will have to put a shout out to Tom Griffiths, because if I don't, he's just going to keep pestering us with comments. So at first he wants to know, Motty, what's going on? And then he shouted out to Andrew going, there still needs to be a sing-off championship as well. I'm just putting my shout out to Griff, because if I don't, you know what he's like.
I've talked to him on the phone. Stay away from backpackers. That's all I'm saying, because the coronavirus will be the easiest thing you'll get. Trust me, mate.
Yeah.
Stay away from them, because I need you at the Barra-Tour at the end of the year.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we need a few more incidents happening there. Also,
when is he coming back for a sing-off? Mr. Tommy,
I think he's back up at the Territory actually. So. Yeah,
we'll come back for a sing-off. It's like nationwide now, mate. Come on. I need some notice. I need at least 3 weeks to practice and rehearse.
To get your vocals all ready. So we've got a question from Mark Atkins for you, Matt. He owns most of your lures, which is an amazing thing on that. He wants to know, do you have any developed for any new fishing animal? Because obviously you've got the budgie, which I'm a fan of, and I've seen your lizard going on. Have we got anything that you can maybe spruik for something could be coming new?
I haven't been developing anything new. I guess since production ones have been out, I've just been promoting them and selling those as much as I can. And since I got back on the timber lures, I'm just pretty much been doing batches of, like I did a batch of the blue tongues, then a batch of the budgies, and I'm doing a batch of the cod neck. So I haven't been developing anything new because what people don't understand is you've got to, like, production is what you do to make money, which is what I need right now. And then development takes like 2-3 weeks to develop one lure, and that time you're not making any money. So right now, sorry, I'm not developing. There is a new range of crays coming out, which I'm slowly working on, which will be released before the end of this year. But there's, so they're sort of, they weren't too hard to develop. They're pretty simple, but they're going to be, so the Timber 2020 set of crays will be coming out later in the year. But other than that, I'm just going to be running through batches because there's still, I did a batch of budgies the other night. They sold out, and a whole heap of people missed out because you had to be on the site within 2 minutes to get them, and they were gone. And so there's a lot of people upset about that. So I've got to do another batch of budgies as well.
But that's good that you've got such a high demand. So, and it actually explains to everyone that's following, going, you've got a great range at the moment, and while you've got this great range, hit it while it's hot, definitely. 2 minutes, I think you said to me that it sold out on. Yeah,
no, they went super quick. It's awesome. I'm so glad. Thanks to everyone for all the support out there on the timber lures. It's a massive collector market out there, and I guess no one's ever going to fish them, unfortunately. But there's guys that have got cabinets full of them, which is pretty cool. I have enjoyed getting back in and making them again. I really love the timber work. I do a lot of Dremel work. The painting is doing my head in. I have to buy a couple more spray guns, I think, because they're clogging up. I'm just having issues, but we're getting there. And I guess, to do something that's super cool in particular, it takes a lot of time and effort and what do you call it? You got to be a bit of a perfectionist. Otherwise, that's other people won't be paying that money. So
no, understandable. So I've got a feeling that this comment, this might be your brother, Scott Fraser, or is that right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Scott. So Scotty wants to know when's the next Motty and Fraser fishing video coming out?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll have to do.
We might have to do in the States at the moment. It's when it opens back up. They're all doing this one-on-one tournament. So maybe we might have to have a Fraser, a Matt versus Matt online comp. That might be pretty cool. Might be the old Golden Child versus the Perch, mate. Trolling. Bring it on.
Definitely. Now, obviously, you've got kids, and that's so Lisa Craig is very interested in, how are your kids into fishing too? Or are they showing any interest? Because her family's very, very big into fishing.
Yeah, they don't mind it, but they're not obsessed like me. It's skipped a generation. My dad wasn't a fisherman, but my grandfather was, and a few of my uncles were. So it has skipped a generation. I think Nick's not super keen on it, but we do get out and get a few trips out in the bay, out in Moreton Bay in Brisbane here, as well as up in the freshwater every now and again, chasing bass and cod and yellows and stuff. But we also mix it up with a fair bit of boogie boarding and tubing and that sort of thing as well, to keep it cool and fun.
No, that's cool.
So just quickly on that, some of the stuff that you're doing with your hectic gabbies and all that, have you done much of that stuff with the salt? Have you done much of that? Because obviously it's going to handle it. Have you gone into that market and just see how it works?
Yeah, well, we're getting a few dewies on the mullets and the bony shad and that sort of thing. The barra, the bony shads are going really well on barra, in a wonga, and it's just a matter of time for the saltwater guys pick up on it as well.
I will totally do any testing that you would like in saltwater barra.
There's a one issue with that.
Don't you dare!
You have to actually catch a barra.
So it's not
just Matt selling you a lure. Matt sends you a lure. You have it for 2 years. you send it back to him and go, and he's going to send it as a collector because it won't have a mark on it.
Don't listen to him, Matt. He likes to make fun of me a lot. No,
Nasty. Yeah.
No, but I'm more than happy. As I was saying to you before, earlier before we went live, that my housemate has actually bought some of your lures, and because I remember because your sticker's actually up in our sticker wall on our shed, so I should have took a photo and sent it to you.
They've done really well. The bunny shads and the lazy mullets in particular have done really well. Up at Awunga, the guide up there, Justin, has done really well with them. And we sent some up to the comp there recently, and it's a pretty cool technique. I don't know if you saw the vid where he's video game fishing on his Garmin Live Scope with these.
Yeah.
So vertical jigging with a swim bait, and it's a really cool technique. I went back up, on the next moon and did it. I haven't got the Garmin, but in the same areas, and able to crack a couple doing that. It is pretty cool to get something on it. It's a totally different technique. That's the hardest thing. Like, I've probably gone too far outside of the box of what normal lures are, which takes people time to learn. It's going to, with some of the lures, particularly the sinking swim baits and vertical jigging, some switched on anglers like Justin and those guys have picked it up. But a lot of the general anglers know diving lures, they know soft plastics, they know. If you did something similar to that, they'd be right. But because they're so different and they take a little bit to get used to, people, do struggle a little bit to put the time in on them. But once you work them out, they're pretty cool, and they get in comp results and plenty of results on clients. So pretty happy with that.
I've got a particular question about your yabbies. So Barry Kelly, he absolutely loves the look of your yabbies, but wants to know, are they suitable for bass fishing?
Probably not. They're probably a little bit big for bass, to be serious. Like, they're more of a yellow and cod type lure. I really needed to make it a little bit smaller. I've got a prototype of a smaller one I've already done, but to put him in production, you've got to spend a heap more money. So I've just got to get these guys out first, and then it'll be a good bass lure. So seriously, I don't want to.
So you'd say get something more like, I don't know, Golden Child.
Oh, Motty, do you have FOMO? You feel the pockets burning because Barambah's going off.
Hey, I've got to pay you $800 an hour. I've got to pay it somehow.
Oh my God, I need to charge you so much more for the conversations that we have on a daily basis nowadays.
I think you start recording the hours you do with him.
If he rings me after 10 o'clock, we got problem. Absolute problem. So, sorry guys, I got distracted as I usually do. I was just going to do a shout out to Mandy Treelaw from Salty Gear. As you can see, I am wearing your gear yet again tonight, and it's so comfy. But
Mandy, we'd all wear it if we had some shirts our way. We'd all wear the old salty shirts, wouldn't we, boys?
Yep.
Yeah, they're a little bit jealous that I've got
say too much, Andrew.
I've got the hat going on, and I've got the shirt every week going on. So giving them a bit of a plug, Salty Gear Fishing Apparel. But to your question, if you jump onto Matt's Barambah Lures Facebook page or even on his website as well, you'll be able to see all the prices on there for you because there's a bit of a range. But that's all the comments that I've got. Don't forget, guys, drop some more comments if you got any query. But we'll get any other questions, Motty, for you to roll through with Matt and Andrew.
Oh, it must be Andrew's turn. I think I've sort of spoke enough.
Oh, that's...
I know it's hard.
Record it, everyone.
Admit to that. You'll never normally admit to that.
No, I won't.
That. Everyone who's listening, mark your wall. That is the first and probably last time he'll ever admit it. Matty, I've got a question for you. Do you think the production lures that you have, and some of them you do timber versions of, is that something you plan to still do a little bit of those production lures, where you'll make a timber version of it for those collectors and those guys that want to have a lure that they can throw or use to go and catch a fish? That's where your production lures are for them guys. If they want to have their collection lure, they can still have it. You'll still produce those every now and then throughout the year, do you think?
The timber lures, I'll try and do production runs of those, of the timber lures, but they're going to be like a dragon's $220 in timber, but it's, a big one, 80 in plastic, in an ABS lure. So, I guess the reason I went with the production one is to try and make it more fishable, like the mid-size dragon. So I've got three sizes in the bidgie wongs, and to try and make them a bit more at a fishable price, because the timber ones were just getting out of control, and the price I need to charge to be able to, make it worthwhile. There are a few guys, like a couple of guys in the last sale bought a couple of dragons and said they're going to fish them because they do prefer the noise that comes out of the wooden ones over the plastic ones. So, it's quite expensive to fish them like that. But yeah, if they're happy to pay that money and fish them, then yeah, good on them to do that. But I really think the results are fairly similar on the production lures at a price, and it's also at a price that I can sell through retail stores. Because most of the timber lures, there's very few Australian timber lure makers who are able to sell to tackle shops, for tackle shops to then, on sell with any sort of profit, that sort of thing. So it's a difficult sort of market for the timber guys to make it. They've got to do some online and some direct as well as some through the tackle stores. So unfortunately, that's just because the time involved in making timber lures. The time and effort that goes into it is massive. And good luck to all those guys. If anyone wants to get in and buy timber lures, check out the AustralianLureShop.com.au that Fitzy runs. There's timber lures on there that are guys like Nella and Califara and Gobsmacked and Mud Eyes that sell most of it's cod stuff, a little bit of bass stuff and yellow stuff. But that's still a big market, and those guys are doing it tough at the moment as well. So, if we can...
But that's something I think you've hit quite well, though, that if you... Like, I know a lot of guys who do go fishing, they're going to want that lure that sits on their shelf that they can look at and appreciate, because they're something you appreciate. They are actually a piece of art. It's not just something that you say. But they can have that same lure that they can take in their box when they go cod fishing and throw it and catch a fish on it without risking $300.
Yeah, that's it. But I did have a few shops buy them, and just to have them as pieces in their stores as well, to show, different levels and pricing and things like that in the market. So a few stores have done that. You
don't have a problem selling them, though. There's a lineup to get them when you do have them there. Like, you sell them in 2 minutes, but I know when we were looking at it, a mate of mine brought mine for me when I got some off him. It takes you. There's a lineup when you've got a waiting list for them, because everybody wants them, and that's great to see.
Yeah, and the Lure Expo has been really good for us for the years that it's run. Unfortunately, it's been canned this year because of coronavirus. But that's a really good opportunity for people to get out and see some really cool stuff from the makers, from the Australian makers, and buy them. And it's also because they do the Lure Awards. That's been really good promotion for my brand as well. I've managed to pick up an award every year there since 2015 for various categories in timber lure making. So what Fitzy's done there with that is really cool. And it also highlights those collectibles and the history of Australian lure making. And it wasn't until I went to that I started to look back down the track. Like, before, I was just like looking at, what you can buy for the cheapest price and go and fish it and catch fish, sort of thing. So, so I don't know. There's different levels of the market, between direct sales and tackle store sales and online sales and all that sort of stuff. And, most people want to just buy a lure to fish that catches fish at a decent price. And then other people are happy to pay a lot of money for something and just look at it. So it's good. I enjoyed being across that whole range of market now with the production stuff as well as doing the timber stuff.
Do you reckon there's a possible spot for Fitzy to do an online auction lure expo or something along that avenue? Do you think
I'd like to see someone set up a proper online auction thing for lures, both collectibles and creative lures. But I think the software and everything that goes into auctions is probably the most difficult part of that. I'm not sure. I've sold through Facebook and a lot of different avenues back when I was doing timber lures only, and tried it a lot of different ways. Like in business, you just try different things and see what works. And some things worked okay with options, and then every now and again you do something wrong by someone by just the way things work out. So it's sort of, you almost need to create an app or a software or something so the options are, I don't know, super. The timing and lag with internet and all that sort of thing can put some people at a disadvantage. So but it'd be interesting to see how that went, because certainly even like not a lot of people can get to the expo because it's in Ipswich every year, and there's a lot of New South Wales and Victoria's guys don't want to come up. So whatever I didn't sell it at the expo, I could quite easily sell online the following week, sort of thing, without a problem. But it's just good to have that avenue to showcase the products.
Do you think that'd help if something like that took place? I don't know if Gary's able to do it or not. I'm literally talking out of my ass.
You're stealing my ideas here, mate. I've already got it in line.
Well, there you go. Jump on to Matthew Mott Sports Fishing and he'll do all these.
No, it's not Matthew Mott, mate. It might be Mel.
No.
I can do you a virtual charter. That'll be good.
It'll be like, it'll be like 5 minutes prior. Trace, we need to do a virtual auction. How do we do that?
I believe that.
5 minutes.
believe that.
It'll be 3 minutes, $800 an hour, mate. I'm only spending as little as I can. Trust
Oh
me.
my gosh. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of questions. Not questions, but I had one particular question from Jai Gilmore, and then your brother Scott has also jumped on the bandwagon of this one as well, Matt. So there's a lot of talk about the Damn Hot series. You sent me a photo and they were VHS, is that right? Like,
That's it. Yeah, the first range are all VHS.
Yeah,
or
and
like
then
DVD.
Moddy's got
I've got a collector's item here.
And then
Look at
Moddy's got DVD for it. So what they want to know, are you going to bring back a stream, a YouTube stream or something with the series so they can see it?
I really want to put them on YouTube at least. Get them out there. I'd love to go and do another Damn Hot series because the whole, the barra scene's gone massive, as well as, and go and do cod and everything as well. I'd love to be able to go and do that in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many people YouTubing and that sort of thing now. You've got to be, really good at what you do, and there's a lot of information out there. So it's I guess a lot more competitive sort of, market for that sort of stuff. But I think people would be interested if I put up each of those segments separately on all the different dams, and and even back in at the time it was sort of groundbreaking because sounders were only just coming online, electric motors were only just starting out. That just for people to understand like the timeline of things and how things work with ABT and soft plastics coming out in those early 2000s, and what happened in the late 90s to 2000s. So things go full circle, and you would have seen it as well, Monty, with the dams going full circle. We had boom time there for years and years until we had the drought, and then we've seen busts, with the Woonga going over and the rest of the dams drying up. So, we've seen boom and bust with the dams, and then the different techniques that come through over the years when, blades were hot for a while. Blades come in and they were all the things, with jackals were massive when they first come in. So there's a lot of things over the years that people that come on the scene now that, everything's available. They've got so many different choices. Back when we started, I think it was like soft plastics or fly, or we had 3 techniques at the time.
Well, there wasn't really even soft plastics. That wasn't really until the early 2000s. That it was all back in the early days, which in some respects I feel a little bit old. It's not old. I feel a little bit it's not sorry, but back in the day when we started off bait fishing. You learned how to bait fish, and you understood what those fish did, and then you went into obviously what we did with trolling with the North Brisbane Catch and Release and all those early tournaments, which I was lucky enough to win a couple of times, Jason, yourself, all them guys. And then from there, when casting took off, we had an understanding of colours and actions, which is sometimes I feel a lot of the new guys get locked in a certain program and they don't quite understand being able to move on the fly. And we had to, because we started from one end and went all the way to the end. So that's, for instance, like with an ice jig, when we put that, that assist hook on the bottom of it, that's the reason people ask me about why putting that on. That was the best bait fishing hook you could buy. It hooked the bass and the yellows when you bait fished, and that's why we stuck it on. And it's a lot of the stuff of what you're doing now. We're grabbing stuff that was from 15, 20, 30 years ago that is now new again, but realistically it's not. So that's the difference with a lot of the stuff that you're designing, is you're taking those years of knowledge. And I just think there's this thing at the moment where, trialling's no good, or bait fishing. I just want to catch fish. I don't care how I've got to catch them. I'm going to go. If I'm doing a charter, obviously not next week, but if I'm doing a charter and it's bait fishing, smashing them guys on my boat don't care. They just want to catch a fish. And there's that many times that's happened. Same with trolling, same with that. And sometimes I think that we've lost a little bit of that. And hopefully, maybe now, you're talking even about the lures, hopefully now that there's been a bit of a reset and everyone will come out after all this stuff that we're going through and just realise that maybe the big things that we were worried about aren't so big after all, and we'll get a little bit of a reset on, we're talking about lures. Like, it's the same thing I said to you. Yeah? Years ago, we used to make timber lures, but people don't want to pay for them. That's the fact. Everyone's going, China this and China that. At the end of the day, we're struggling. We're talking about on spinnerbaits on Monday. People want to buy stuff at a price, and if that's what you got to do, then that's what you get. So hopefully now we might see a little bit of a reset, and people will appreciate, guys like yourself. That them lures shouldn't be 200; they should be 700 or 800. That with the amount, everyone wants to earn a bit of money when they work, and as I said, with our business, we're struggling through the same thing of just. The amount of work you put in is sometimes is it worth it. So hopefully that's if there is a positive, hopefully that's one.
And the biggest thing, all this has happened because of overseas manufacture, obviously, coming in at cheaper prices. So the only way it's ever going to change is if there is import duty on imported lures. So I hope the government looks at this overall picture of manufacturing in general, not just fishing, but overall for the country, for everything. The car industry and everything, all sorts, clothes, whatever, manufacturing. There's very little of it in Australia because you can't compete on price, with China. But if they did start adding import duty to those goods, then you could start leveling the playing field a little bit. And now that I've been to China and seen everything that goes there, they're great people. They're awesome people. There's, I think it's just the way the whole, the whole government's run. They do work super hard over there. They work a lot harder than what we do in Australia. But I don't know if it's a life. But we're not going to be able to with them with the way that the laws and rules are. It's free trade is just, we're going backwards because of it. So
what do you reckon they cost to manufacture in Australia, mate? If you're making a lure that's $30, is it going to be $60, $100? What do you reckon it would be to make?
Not even anyone in Australia who can make the moulds to make ABS lures in Australia. Like Halco were the last ones doing it, as far as I know. That can make like ABS construction of moulds. There's not even anyone here who can do it. So someone to be able to tool up and do that. The labour costs are going up over there, but it's going to be a long time before they're anywhere equal to what our labour costs over here. So it's they'd still cost a hell of a lot more to make here. But even guys like Steve Steer from Craig, he's looking really hard at trying to bring his manufacturing back to Australia. He's he's one of the ones who's trying to push for it and the grants and that sort of thing to get it back, because he's had a lot of issues with manufacturing overseas. So it's, I don't know, I'd like to see the tables turn. Even though I'm over there and I've got a warehouse full of stuff here to sell. It's not what I wanted to do, but I basically wanted to try and compete on the world stage, and that's the only way you can do it.
It's just not possible to do it here, is it?
Oh no, it's impossible. Yeah, you can do your what are they called, Monty? The ones through Lively's, the foam filled lure. One piece foam bodies here, but then your painting costs and everything are to get them done.
Oh, just for instance, we went through down that track, and I mean, obviously we do most 90% of our stuff here. But for instance, you're talking about wage costs. We went down that track of having staff. We had 6 or 7 staff, and it's $6,000 or $7,000 a week.
That's it. And same with Alan himself at Lively.
That's exactly what it is. And now we've toned it back. We went through, as you say, in business, you got to try different things. We tried that. It was successful, but we were killing ourselves. So it's gone back to where there's, obviously myself and Gail and one other person, and before all this stuff happened, and it was like, well, let's do it this way because you aren't actually making any more money. And Alan did the same thing. That's what he went through, making massive turnover, but sitting back at the end of it and your accountant goes, do you actually realise you're making like $5 an hour? And you sort of got to have a bit of a rethink. But as I said, that's business. We ebbs and flows, and you take it for what you can. And it is what it is. And just hopefully we can get a little bit of a reset after all this, and people will start appreciating guys like yourselves and maybe us, and realising what we're doing out there.
Support
that'd be good.
Yeah, there's one thing that I think that both of you do different to most others, and I'm not saying it as a criticising to the most others, but when we were at Awonga for the Awonga Open for Barra, when's that, Matthew? February. We had a bunch of lures that Matty gave to us to give away from Barambah, and we took a couple out and we fished with them, and I fished one particular lure. I didn't change. I had one of your lures on, and it never faltered. I was quite surprised at how well it just swung, but how easy I could pull it out of weed, how easy it rolled over timber, how easy you could cast it, whether you were targeting something particular. Don't pick on my abilities, Matt.
Mate, that's one, Matt, that's one guy you want to take on. I took him out barra fishing. We stuck on one of your mullets. He got 6 hits. He hooked 6 fish. Never landed. Never even looked like them, mate. The thing could have came up, handed it back to him, and he still wouldn't have caught it.
I had a shock and run on mine up there as well till I finally got him. But yeah, you just have karma sometimes. That barra, that's all they are. They're just,
mate, when they eat it, you hit him as hard as you can. He doesn't quite understand that.
Yeah, you have to settle some barra.
You got to set him up. You got to set him.
I don't know that that's true. I've seen that. I know how hard you and your son hit him, and that's animal abuse. That. The point I was trying to make is how hard is it to take a lure from a lure that swims to a lure that does what it should do, like both of your lures do, but it's directed to Matt Fraser. That lure doesn't just swim, it swims in action, whether you're twitching it, whether you're slow retrieving it, whether you're hopping it, it follows all those actions, but it's easy to pull out a weed, it's easy to roll out of a timber. How much work is different between a lure that you just make that swims and it can do a job versus one that you're happy with and you're prepared to take to production? But they're the things that I think it's a massive difference in the amount of time input.
I put a lot of time into that stuff and spent a lot of time overseas working with the manufacturers and redoing them. So, like you'd make a timber lure, they'd scan it, they'd design the internals, they'd 3D print it, put it together with your weights and everything, and you'd test swim them, and then you'd go and redo that 3 times until you get it close to what you want, and then you'd make a semi-production mould and then go and test that or bring that back and test it and make sure that's right. And it's a very long process to get them right. Like other people, like I do know of manufacturers who just get a competitor's lure and go to a factory and go, can you just make me one of those? They don't even worry about changing either. They might change the appearance by 10% so that they don't get docked on that. And then they just go, yeah, we'll just pick this colour, this colour, this colour, this colour. I spent weeks in the colour painting room with the guy. I painted them here before I took them over. Then I'd spend time with the painters working really closely to get all the finishes and everything right as well. So I definitely went sort of above and beyond what most, like the 2 factories I work with probably sick of me because I'm just there. I was there so much of the time getting getting stuff right. But that's I've just seen things go wrong in the past with other lures, and even then, like, it's still a fine line between stuffing up and getting it right when you go and invest 20 or 30 grand into one lure or more to get between molds and then a production run of them. So you've got to put the time in it for the cost of an airfare and spending time over there. That's not a big cost. It's the cost of production. So you've got to put the time in, and my name's on the line. So I want to do this right and do a good job of it. So,
I think credit to you, mate. You've done it right. I think. So, hopefully they take it up.
So, Trace, how are we going? Any more comments, or we're ready to run the randomizer?
Well, there is some funny ones, and that just like people taking the piss out of other people on here, which is quite hilarious. But one of the really good questions that actually I also want to know comes from Matt Black. And because you've been in the lure industry a long time and you've been making different things over your career with lure making, what's your highlight? What's the best moment that you've gone, that's the best part of my lure making career?
Damn hot one. Been doing Bajelki Peterson, 3:30 in the afternoon. Big bass, Matthew Mott.
Not you. That's not a question to you, Moddy.
I knew that. I was just stirring him up.
I know. I was sitting there going, I was reading other comments. I'm like, actually, you shouldn't be talking. Give Matt time to think.
That's a tough one. I don't think I've had any massive moment. Like I've really enjoyed getting the awards at the Lure Expo amongst what I consider my peers in the timber lure making industry, because I really do look up to those guys. So those things are a highlight to me. And winning, I've won a couple of comps down at Glenline, the Glenline 1 lure comp. I won that twice on my own lures. So it's always good to win a comp on your own lure, as Matthew would probably know.
Yes, I've won that.
You've got to say that, Moddy.
So that's probably that's probably highlights right there. But and we did really well in the Flathead Classic last year on our own jig heads as well. So that was come pretty close to taking that out, and hadn't fished flathead for a few years. So we only just got into it with my mates. We'd only fished together for a month or 6 weeks prior, but we really put the time in. And I'm not an awesome comp fisherman. I'm a slow learner. I really have to put the hours in to work stuff out. So it's good when it does click and you are in the zone and you're at the pointy end of the field in a comp, and particularly if you do it on your own products. And it's super positive, yeah.
No, that's really cool.
So I got a prize for, who was that, Matt? Someone who?
That was
Matty Black.
That was Matthew Black, yeah.
Matthew Black. We're going to send you, Trace will get your details.
Hey, look out.
A baby perch for that one, thank you very much.
No, he wins too much. Pick another person.
No. You know what? What's really funny is that Matt Black hasn't actually caught a barra before. Like he come up in February, and his wife Danica, she has killed it on the barra. So I think that is absolutely amazing, because if he catches a barra on your lure, the whole world will know about it.
Did you see how many Great Northerns he drunk? No wonder he didn't catch any barra.
He didn't even go fishing.
He didn't even go fishing. He was hungover.
Oh my goodness. Oh, hold on. I don't know if we touched base with this. You did speak about Tinaroo. Is there a world record or something? World record barra at Tinaroo? What's that about?
Yeah, when we filmed that Damn Hot video, I managed to get a world record on 3 kilo line class barra.
Oh my gosh.
It's all been smashed since, but it's still for about 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I had a world record.
That was from Paul Fraser. So you held a world record for 8-9 years.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That was good. So every now and again, you have little wins along the way like that. You just got to put the time in and keep on being at the coal face and like fishing, putting the hours into it all, and being consistent and just having a go.
Awesome. So we got a lure going out to Matt Black. What else have we got? Are we going to do a randomizer?
Do a couple of randomizer. Do the randomizer for the.
So this
for
is.
the carton.
I've got two more.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, hold on. We got
Oh,
him.
hang on a minute.
Whoa, he's better than Monty. He gives out free products.
What
So
doesn't
do I
give
do
away
it $50
anything.
an hour?
That's the hectic yabby. So there was one really good question earlier. I can't remember who it was.
It was Andrew Mitchell.
It was
It was
not.
about the hectic yabby. So I can.
Oh, about the yabby. Oh, who was that one there? Whether or not they could use it on bass.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Is that right?
So if he wants the bass, we can send him. Yeah, we can send him the baby perch. But whatever he wants between those two, we can send him one.
Actually, that was Barry Kelly. So Barry Kelly asked, "I love the look of your yabbies. Are they suitable for bass?"
Yeah, send him a yabby.
Send him a yabby. Give it a go.
Yeah,
Because
send him a yabby.
I think Barry would actually give us some really good feedback for you for that part there. So Barry Kelly, I will make contact with you on Facebook, get some details, and throw that through. And we're gonna.
So we've got one lure. We've got one lure yet. So Matt's going to give what do you got there to give away, Matt? It's perch, isn't it?
I've got a bony shad.
Bony shad to give away, and we've got one bony shad, and then we've got the two randomizer prizes, that and the Great Northern.
So this is going to be a randomizer.
This is a randomizer. Let them go.
Okay, so while I'm randomising, I would like another. Scott is your brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on fire tonight. So while I'm doing the randomizer, I need you
He
to.
must be on the rum.
He must. I'll let you ponder about this. And what about the time he nearly lost the camera overboard when he was fishing for the world record? Ponder and talk about that whilst I go find a randomizer.
So that was about 5 or 6 days into the Tinaroo trip, and we had a really good run at the start of the trip, and then it got tough, and I was out there by myself, and because Scott came out most sessions with us filming, but he was getting a bit sick of it too. So I went out by myself, and that's when I was fishing the 3 kilo line cast and hooked onto this bloody big fish. So I didn't have the camera set up, so I'm trying to set that camera up and the tripod up and set everything up, and in the between, it ended up being super rough. I ended up managing to get the fish out from the edge, and then I was just fighting it in open water. It was like an hour and a half fight before I finally got in. Actually, in the middle of the fight, it just happened to be that Rod Harrison, Jack Erskine, and Laurie Woodbridge come out in another boat fishing, and also Jennifer and John Mondora. These are all really big, well-known fishing personalities. These guys just happened to be out there at the same time, and so ended up Harrow put Laurie Woodbridge on board the boat to film the end of the fight, and he's like an marlin game fishing skipper from back in the day, like back in the early Cairns days. He's just a legend. All those guys are legends, and so I was pretty stoked to have those guys. Yeah, end up Laurie was on board and filmed the end of the fight and landing it and everything. But yeah, during the fight, like the boat was just we're in 14-foot edge tracker out in the middle of Tinaroo, and it was super rough. And Cameron nearly went overboard a couple of times, but we managed to get the fight, and it's all there on Damn Hot 2. I have to put it on YouTube. Not exactly accessible anymore, but Tinaroo certainly the Damn Hot 2 really put Tinaroo on the map back in the time. Because then a whole heap of people started going up there. But Neil Schultz had that nailed early on in the piece, and he came up and fished with us and showed us how to do it. And got to thank him for that, because that come up as a really good segment. Really big fish, like metre 15s to metre 20s back then were massive compared to anything anywhere else at the time, because Tinaroo was the first dam of any of the dams to come online.
Tinaroo was the one that we all wanted to go to. That was the holy grail back in, you're talking about in the early 2000s, or in the 90s. That was the holy grail. Late 90s, that was the holy grail.
Well, with the randomizer on this one here, I want to let you boys know that from the comments that we made about Salty Gear, fishing apparel, they've just messaged me, and they're actually going to give you guys all shirts. So they're going to get the jerseys, the Salty Gear jerseys.
We finally get something.
Yes. So I know this family quite well. So they've got all their kids, like from the smallest to the oldest. They are mad keen fishermen.
How many kids they got?
They've got a few. So they've got.
So when do they get time to make shirts?
They do. Oh my God, Monty, you might just get denied. They've got 4 kids who are really, really keen.
Holy hell.
Yeah, and then Simon, who's the dad, he is. I've never seen someone fish so hard at Rainbow Beach Fishing Classic last year. So they're all very saltwater fishermen, and they do. I've seen bits and pieces going into the fresh, but for the bony shad randomizer, I want to be able to give that to Mandy and Simon Treelaw.
Right, fair enough.
Right.
So give them. They will give you heaps and heaps of feedback about that. So show us that one, Matt. I think you need to talk.
Talk up, brother.
Sorry, that's it. Yeah, bony shad. So she's a swim bait that you can fish it vertical or fish it like a normal swim bait. Change the weights in it, fish it at different depths. So yeah, that's it. Normally $39.95 retail. You can get them online, barambah.com, or at tackle stores all around Australia.
Awesome. So Bastabara's got them as well, which is really, really close to where Simon and Mandy live. So we'll get in contact with you guys. Now, for the carton of beer, I had some randomizer coming through, and this week, to support your local, goes to Mark Atkins.
Hey, he'll drink that in about 10 minutes.
Oh, I know,
The
he'll
original
guzzle that
Booze
down. So, Mark, send us a message on our Fishing Freshwater Facebook page about who your local is. Andrew will organise that carton. What we do need is who the local is, so we can plug them on next week's show, plus also when you do it. But we also need a photo as well. So a photo of you holding the carton, if they're open, to show us where the bottle is as well.
Okay, guys, looks like we might be ready to wrap this up. I'd like to thank Matty Fraser, mate. Awesome rundown. It was really good to catch up with you tonight and give us that sort of background of how you come and where you are today. That was really good. Thanks to the hostess with the mostest.
No
so
dramas.
we're down 500, so we'll have to try and hit up a few sponsors over that. Andrew, great effort tonight, mate. You done stuff all. That was really good. I'm proud of you. Just sat there and drank Canadian and put shit on us in the background. But anyway, guys.
I did what every normal person who has interact with you does. Opens your ears and listen because you just keep fucking talking. There's my swear word for the night, people.
Oh, no, we're gone.
No,
Kids are going to bed.
Oh, my
Anyway,
gosh.
guys,
All right,
thank
guys.
you very much. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks,
From
mate.
all us guys, we really appreciate you. And we will see you next Wednesday with the 3 Amigos with a really great guest. We're going to keep it a secret. We've got someone lined up, and we'll tell you in the next few days.
Wonderful. So, boys, stay
Thanks,
online
Maddie.
with
Appreciate
me,
your time.
and we're cruising out.